Professor Mdwaba. Professor Mthunzi Mdwaba is one of several candidates campaigning to be the next International Labour Organization's Director General. Professor Mdwaba is an accomplished businessman, organized business activist, academic and thought leader. He believes he's the right person to lead the ILO at a time when inequality is rife and there's a shortage of decent jobs and youth unemployment across the globe is sky high. He joins me now via Zoom from Johannesburg for this conversation. Prof. Mdwaba, how much I would have loved to start with you just talking about the state of the ILO, what your vision is for the ILO and why you are standing for this position. But as you and I know, I'm pretty sure you know that there have been developments in the last few days which basically I'm impelled to start there. Are you still standing for the position of ILO Director General, or has that fallen by the wayside in the wake of reports, particularly let's attribute to and give credit to the reporting of EWN and my friend Teto Mahlakwan? Are you still the candidate, or are you no longer the candidate as far as you know?
Tulasi's good afternoon, and I think it's good perhaps that you start there because there has been some confusion, and the confusion really is because someone decided to withdraw a submission of my application that had already been entered into the ILO about 2 weeks ago. But you probably would have noticed as well from the same reports by Teto and also by the reports by Business Day that my team was wise enough to foresee some of these possibilities. And we have 7 additional submissions other than the one that was withdrawn, namely the Kingdom of Lesotho, the Republic of Malawi, the employers of Senegal, of Algeria, of South Africa, of Cameroon, and of Kenya all submitted me. So not only am I standing still as a candidate, my campaign could not be stronger.
But does it carry any significance that, and when you say someone decided to withdraw the filings that were supposed to be done, that they had done actually, and it was reported at the time that your candidature had been filed duly, that nomination by the South African government with the backing of SADC as well as the AU, does it carry any significance if the effect of that someone withdrawing those papers has the impact that cabinet, the South African cabinet, the South African government no longer supports you?
Well, I think the one needs to be careful with answering that question. In terms of the country in South Africa, it does carry significance because one could perhaps say it's one of those very treasonous acts that one doesn't want to spend too much on, and I call it treasonous very guidedly when I say that. But in terms of, and also because the cabinet, for some reason, decided not to consult me, nor consult NEDLAC. You must remember that I was endorsed by COSATU, by FEDUSA, by NACTU, by Business Unity South Africa, all the social partners at NEDLAC. All of these were not consulted. So from a South African point of view, yes, it is significant. And you would have seen on social media, there's a flurry of goodwill. I've been overwhelmed by the support that the real South Africans have for me. And when I say the real South Africans, I mean from all walks of life, young people, women, men, everything, organizations, institutions. But in terms of the global forum, it carries absolutely zero significance. You must remember, I am a Southern African developing countries candidate, a SADC candidate, tripartite at that, in that it was approved by the trade unions, by the employers, and by all the governments of SADC. And then I was endorsed by the African Union as well. So my candidacy is a SADC African Union candidacy, not a South African candidacy, point number one. Point number two, South Africa is not a voter in the ILO. So South Africa cannot vote. South Africa cannot do anything in the ILO. Indeed, the African countries, including SADC, that are part of the voters, there's a college of 56 voters in the ILO, and every candidate needs to get 50% plus 1, so that would be 29 votes to win. And the countries that are part of that are African countries that do not include South Africa.
So just for absolute clarity, is it your understanding as things stand, and we will move on from this point in a moment, but is it your understanding as we speak that you no longer have the support of the South African government, outside of the other stakeholders that you mentioned, but the South African government, you no longer have their support? And is it your understanding that they are withdrawing all material support from you, all personnel support, and the campaign having been estimated that they had spent some 8 million rand on this campaign before deciding, oh, well, Prof. Mdwaba is no longer our man?
I'm happy that you want to move very quickly from this, because I don't want to spend too much time on negativity that we've agreed is insignificant, because I want to move to the positive aspects of this amazing opportunity that Africa has, this amazing opportunity that we have since 1919, since the ILO was born. But yes, South Africa has withdrawn all support. So I would say I was running in Cape Town and jogging yesterday, and I remember I had two songs in my mind, one by Sting, I'm an Alien in New York, and the other one was by Paul Simon, Homeless. So I was thinking, between an alien and homeless, what is it? For me, it's stateless. So I am stateless, yes, that's for sure. But let's also correct this. South Africa has not spent a cent on me. In the last 12 months, I've spent my money. It's been very embarrassing for me to own up to this. When people have asked me who's funding me, I've been funding myself. There isn't a cent that has been approved. Up until 2 months ago, this 8 million rather, was approved for my funding going forward. And then, of course, there was this very strange decision by Cabinet about a week or so ago. And then the 8 million, which nobody had seen yet, obviously will go with that support that ceases from that point that the Cabinet made a decision.
So lastly, Prof, on this issue, my friend Teto Mahlakwane has been trying her best to figure out, how does this decision make sense? What's the motivation? Why is he suddenly no longer the candidate? I mean, I remember there was a long statement extolling your virtues when you were nominated. In fact, I think the statement was on the 14th of September. She can't figure out why, and the best she can do is hear from sources that perhaps some ministers believe you are arrogant.
Well, Chula Sizwe, I remember fondly the day that my submission was made by South Africa, because it was actually the 13th of September that they did, and it's my late father's birthday. So I was hugely excited, and I thought the ancestors were with me. There was just an error, so it had to be resubmitted on the 14th. But in terms of the feeling of arrogance, I have to say that one thing I've noticed about us Africans particularly is that when you're a confident African who's very knowledgeable, there's a tendency for people to label you arrogant. You know, people love labels. It's very convenient for us to say ugly, arrogant, short, tall, or whatever the case may be. I think people need to focus on content. For me, what I detest in the extreme is people trying to belittle your knowledge and the recognition they should give you. Now, one understands at home, you shouldn't expect to have this. It's quite sad that this is precisely the case. But I also want to remind you that there's probably been many other arrogant people before me, because if you remember, Usis Mthunzi Mdwaba was also not supported by South Africa, and she now leads the UN Women. There's a clip actually that does the rounds on this. Wamkele Mnene, who is the Secretary General of the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, was also not supported by South Africa. And so far, the two people won resoundingly. So I like this trend, because I intend to win. I am going to win. If that's arrogance, I don't know. For me, I think it's called confidence, because I know I'm extremely competent in what I do. I have expertise. I have experience. I'm probably the most competent and experienced of all the candidates that are there. But I'm happy to look forward to this. I'm happy to follow the process. I know that, one thing I always say to people is that as a leader, you must know what you know. But it's also important as a leader to know what you don't know. So there's a lot of people at home in many parts of the world who, when they don't know, they find it difficult to say, I don't know. And when they surround themselves with people who know, they find it difficult to listen to them, and then they call them arrogant. So I'm going to leave it at that and just say that we are having an amazing, amazing campaign. And South Africans and all Africans will be dancing in the halls of the ILO come the 26th of March next year in 2022, Tula Sizwe.
I love it, Prof. Let's close this file, and I'll take a quick break. And when I come back, we get into the actual issue, the actual matters, why I invited you here, so we can talk about what it is that you believe you can do at the ILO, what is working, what is broken, and the changing nature of work in going into the future, and how you plan to play and to enhance the ILO's role in as far as that is concerned. That is Professor Mthunzi Mdwaba. He's a candidate for the Director General position at the International Labour Organization. In a moment, we get into the substance of the issues that we invited him to talk to. This is the Intel on ENCA.